Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review. In this episode, TNT Jackson, released by Umbrella Entertainment, directed by Ciro H. Santiago in the year 1974. Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review, your guide to the wild world of science fiction action horror cinema with me, your host, Mila Zipka, if you want to spell my name, just look at the channel name. Now in this episode, we take a look at a film called TNT Jackson, which was a very strange cross-blend of Blaxploitation and martial arts, both big genres in the 1970s. It was directed by Ciro H. Santiago, who was a bit of a cult name in the Filipino film industry. He was pretty much one of the big players. And I've actually got 3 of his films in my collection, others being Bloodless 2050 and Future Hunters. I'll get to them in the future. Now, and by the way, the film was written by Dick Miller and Ken Metcalf, 2 actors of Roger Corman's group. And this film actually, it's a co-production between the US and the Philippines. It premiered in the Philippines on the 8th of June 1974 under the title Dynamite Wong and TNT Jackson. And then the film had its US premiere on the 17th of January 1975. Now the DVD, as you can see, it's actually a double feature. I already reviewed the Roman Hunt in the previous episode. That's the one I'm reviewing now, TNT Jackson. And all I can say about that DVD is, aside from the fact that the print quality is taken from an old film reel. I mean, it looks okay, but I'll get into that later on. But there's no supplement aside from a trailer. Now, a very bizarre entry in the 1970s Filipino exploitation market, TNT Jackson, sure put you in traction, was a failed attempt at crossbreeding the Blaxploitation Kung Fu films, both of which were seriously big in the 1970s. However, the film fails to put a dent in either of the genres, and even fails to make its own case, despite the potential. Although the film has become something of a cult item among aficionados of 1970s exploitation crud, particularly in one certain scene involving nude karate and light switch. Former Playboy Playmate Jeannie Bell placed Diana TNT Jackson in trouble with the law ever since she served a jail sentence at the age of 13 years old for knifing a sailor. She talks the talk and has the ability to walk the walk thanks to her formidable martial arts skills. Thanks to one of her mother's boyfriends who had a black belt in karate and basically taught her how to kick ass like a pro. TNT Jackson arrives in Hong Kong, which basically is the Philippines doing a mediocre job of setting in for Hong Kong, to search for a brother who was living in the area as a small-time drug dealer. But the former jailbird with a knack for getting into trouble thanks to her quick mouth and her quicker fists, or for her brand of kung fu so sloppy it'll put you to sleep the old-fashioned way, discovers from her brother's landlord, played by a Filipino comedian Chiquito, bit of a legend over there. He basically tells her that the brother was lethally kicked out of the drug ring he worked in. And now TNT is hellbent on catching the scum who did it and riding his ass into the nearest 6-foot deep grave hole. At the same time, an undercover US government agent is keeping an eye on her as TNT's revenge plot threatens not only the operation that she's conducting, but the agent's own survival. And TNT seems to have a friend in Charlie, the local drug lord's top enforcer, much to the suspicion of a gangster named Ming, who doesn't like Charlie, for good reason too. It seems that the longer things go on, with the drug lord's deliveries of China White being hijacked, and TNT's constant fighting interfering with the operation that all the roads seem to lead to Charlie. For a martial arts film, TNT Jackson is an utter failure. All the martial arts combat here are literally performed by amateurs, whose only knowledge of the discipline extends instructions on how to do the right poses. And this film story makes the crazy assumption that everyone in Hong Kong knows Kung Fu, at least throwing some guns mix things up a bit, but I guess Ciro H. Santiago and writers Ken Metcalf and Dick Miller, yes, the legendary actor himself, failed to heed that advice. The Foley sound effects of the usual insane sounds you hear in those cheesy low-grade Kung Fu flicks are a decade old there, including the wacka-dacka melodies during the opening credits that you also hear in those types of films. And when the Kung Fu on screen threatens to look completely unconvincing, they have the decency to speed up the movements in post to give the fights a little bit more credibility, which doesn't work. That being said, at least Stan Shaw had some fighting background. For a blaxploitation film, this fares a little better. Although, for an intended vehicle to make Jeannie Bell into the next Pangria, it fails to do the job, since Bell isn't any sort of decent actress, as she certainly can't give a decent punch or kick. Instead, the only reason she was cast was because of her looks, something that becomes obvious during the infamous scene where after TNT is threatened with a cigar branding by Ming, played by future bloodfist villain Maria Avellana in a significant but uncredited role, she quickly breaks free, takes her clothes off to be left in only black panties, and turns off the light, so she can do a kung fu ass-kicking on her enemies in the dark. Not to mention her panties changing color and size for one brief shot. On a technical front, the low production values here really robs the action of any real move to move around fully in, and the lack of martial arts talent really shows through in the thoroughly inept fight scenes. To be fair, the script, despite being simplistic to the point of being crude as hell, does, however, make sense, although you shouldn't be going into this one expecting a sophisticated study of the Hong Kong drug scene of 50 years ago. And the payoff does occur with a surprising degree of brutality. The undercover agent sacrifices herself by pushing the drug lord and herself outside the second-story window, and TNT ices the villain by literally punching her hand through his stomach and out the other side, neither of which you'll see coming from any sort of storytelling distance, and has an abrupt ending. Plus, the film is only slightly longer than an hour, which gives it a quickie feeling. TNT Jackson thrusts her hand from my grading ladder to grab the D+, 3 out of 10. It's not a good film in any real way, despite all the kung fu fighting going on. As for nudity, Jeannie Bell, Pat Vanderson, and at least 2 other Filipino ladies show off their boobs. Bell's boobs in particular are rather smashing for the time. Enjoy that in the dark topless karate fight, you voyeurs. As for the DVD, this was released in Australia several times by both the infamous label Avenue 1, although I haven't seen any copies of that flying around, and by Umbrella Entertainment, whose review print here was a double feature with The Woman Hunt. Although there might be singles of this one also in the market, of which I've yet to see. The print here seems to be in better shape than the other film, but could be either a decent VHS rip or an old film reel. The frame is 133, and the picture has some artifacting due to age, although it comes off in better condition than The Woman Hunt. The soundtrack is in English dual mono, there are no subtitles, and the only supplement is the film's trailer, which is in even lesser condition than the film itself. As I mentioned before, the film menu design is also rather clunky. Okay, that's it for that one. TNT Jackson gets a D+, 3 out of 10. It's disappointing, pretty much low-grade mediocre, but if you're a fan of Blaxploitation or Kung Fu films of the 70s, this might be an interesting curiosity, particularly that topless karate fight. Okay, that's it for the TNT Jackson, and I hope you guys are staying safe, take it easy. I did not do a request, but if you want to know of a particular film in my collection, just hit me up in the comment section, I'll answer. Also, if you have any questions about DVDs in general that you think I can answer, I'll help you out with that. Okay, stay safe, take it easy, and that's it for this review. See ya.